can't hear you.
Here's another reason.
I was going to say my AC unit inside the house started on fire, so I had to call the service
The only
service
one
people.
move is not to play the game.
So I got to ask permission to buy the gun, and then I got to pay to ask permission to carry the motherfucker outside of my house. How about you go fuck yourself?
Hey, hi guys, how you doing? This is Bruce McGee, aka the Weather Soul, here on the Weather Report, episode number 21. And I want to wish all you guys out there that are there live, happy Father's Day from the Weather Report, because I had quite a day today. I was out at the beach. I went golfing this weekend. I did all that bougie stuff that everybody loves to do on a Father's Day weekend. But we have a very, very special guest today. I personally have not met our guest before, but he's been in our kind of group that we've had throughout the Nomad Network with Jason Stapleton. He was off a couple of weeks ago, but we're very happy to have him here. He's familiar with the most of the co-hosts here on the Weather Report, and I just want to bring on everybody here, like Ken and Harkos and Jason and myself, and we have Danny Hudson from the Tennessee Hot Sauce Company, and I'm going to bring everybody on right now. So hold on tight. Hello, guys. How you guys doing?
Let's get ready to have something hot and spicy.
Something really hot and spicy.
And I don't mean that Latino thing that you met at the club last night.
You know, if I would have to think, if anybody on this call is going to any clubs, you might be the only one.
Yeah, probably. Probably. I mean, I am the only one single, and I'm still under 40, so there's that.
right.
Nobody knocking on your door this weekend to be the baby daddy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I only turned 40 like 4 months ago, so I'm rounding down to 39 still at this point.
Hey.
I'd be the old man in the bunch.
He's old. I'll be 38 at the end of the year, but luckily my genetics have me still looking at my 20s, so I can pass. I can pass. I gotta start saying 26, but
drinking a little vino tonight.
There you go. You could still pull it off.
Oh yeah, yeah, I definitely can.
So today when I got home, because I was in the kitchen this morning making some hot sauce, I got back home, and for Father's Day, my wife and my boys put a bunch of pictures of us all over the house, right? They kind of hid it like Easter eggs and that kind of thing. And so I found pictures of my oldest when he was born, and there's a picture of me, you know, and there's no gray, right? There's no gray in here in those pictures. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, that was only like 7 years ago. You know, like this comes on quick.
Yeah. I've been starting to see some speckles here and there, like, you know, one-offs. You know, I get like over in here, I see like one or two. If I gotta cut my hair because it's starting to get too long. Like once it gets a couple inches long, I start seeing them. And I see them on my beard a little bit right in here. It's just like so I gotta keep everything short. That's my key.
You are still wet behind the ears, my friend. So
yeah, I know you're all blurry as fuck, but you're grayed out.
Yeah, that's
there you go.
There I am.
There you go. Your camera. Did you spit on it on accident?
This is what it looks like when you're almost Hulk Hogan. You know,
yeah.
This came on about 45, and I'm 64 now. So
45 years ago.
But I mean, now we've got the
nice
salt and pepper here, dude. So
yeah, you're still looking good up top. Yeah. I love it. Now,
I think you have that Morgan Freeman going on where you've just looked 105 for like 45 years.
That's all right, but I'm a distinguished looking 64.
Yeah.
Yeah, distinguished. Keep telling yourself that. That's
distinguished. Unlike extinguished, which is what Jason is doing right now to his AC unit.
I'm 55, but I can pass.
I'm like a fine red wine, baby. I'm like a fine red wine.
Well,
anyhow, Danny, I see that you say that you're whipping up a batch of hot sauce today. Are you still on this? Is this still a homebrew type thing? What's going on?
I started making it in a community kitchen, right? So I still go and rent commercial kitchen space and that kind of thing, other than experimental sauces and batches and stuff like that. But we're kind of at that stage between where I'm still making some, and we now have a co-packer who is also starting to make some batches for us as well. So we had a couple of big orders over the last week or so, and I just am trying to get those orders solidified so that way I can get those out, and then our co-packer can start taking over more of the production. So I was in this morning, I'm in tomorrow, I'm in Tuesday, and then I'll probably be back in next week for another like 2, 3, 4 days, something like that. So yeah,
cool.
Not too bad. It sounds like you're at like that bend point between like, like you're at that breaking point. It's like, okay, well, if I want to, I'm at that point where if I want to accelerate, I just need to just scale, and then I'll just blow. Like you got scale and then blow, basically.
Yeah,
where you're at.
That's exactly it. And one of the things too that we've learned as far as the hot sauce goes is that a lot of times the initial order is fairly sizable, and then the rest of it you're kind of filling in gaps, after that. So like the big order that we just got was like 85 cases. And so for some perspective, when I go into the kitchen, I make about 16 at a time, right? So he's essentially ordered 6 cook sessions worth of hot sauce, and because I can make 7.5 gallons or so at a time. And then, but our co-packer can scale up to about 100 gallons. And so that would be the goal, would be able to get to that point. The issue though that you end up coming across there, and I know Jason Stapleton talks about it before, right, is where you can't get time back, and it's not a problem as long as you can write a check for it.
Right.
And so my hope is that I can get to the point where I can write that check.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. I know, we've kind of basically seen your growth from whenever you were just started getting the label going a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And you were just like, making it in your kitchen and testing it out. And then
you
finally got it to where you would actually ship nationwide. And that's when, I started buying, all your exotic flavors from you and stuff like that.
Yep.
And, and that's one thing I like about your hot sauce is, even though I'm a little bitch when it comes to spicy stuff, like it has good flavor until it kicks me on the ass. Right. And so that's what I like, because you can get hot sauce out here. It just immediately sets your mouth on fire.
Right.
And like even with like the honey habanero, or pineapple habanero, I mean, like you taste all the flavors and then it starts getting hot. The blood orange ghost. I was like, oh, that's an interesting flavor. Oh God,
here it comes.
You know what I'm saying?
That was our favorite at work. So I brought the blood orange ghost into work just to because we have some real hot sauce aficionados there. So a lot of the hot sauce that I get from you, Danny, ends up coming to work with me because we buy lunch for everybody every day, and we do Mexican at least once a week.
Sure.
And wings or something like that. So it's always good. So people check out that pumpkin. So this was like, I was like, this has got to be just terrible. A pumpkin hot sauce. I mean, I'm honest to God, I was like, I got that in the box last fall, and I'm like,
sure,
it's amazing.
Thank
you. I mean, it's like incredible. I would have never thought.
So one of the
we should back up here for just a second. I don't mean to interrupt, but we just kind of jumped in because we all know what's going on.
Sure.
So Danny formed Tennessee Hot Sauce a few years ago. What year was it?
2021.
2021. And like Chris was saying, we all kind of watched you get the thing started off the ground. We were all in this network together. And as that network was great for, I think you would attest to this too, is like as soon as you said you had this hot sauce, you had a bunch of customers right away saying, I'll try some, I'll buy it.
Yeah, I was like, yo, let me get one of every flavor.
Yeah.
But you had started this, and it's kind of taken off. Your background's in financial. Is it a financial? How would you describe that?
Corporate finance, essentially corporate finance. I stare at P&Ls all day and spreadsheets and all that kind of fun stuff. So it's nice to have a nice creative outlet, to be able to have some fun with.
Exactly, and I think the conversations you have had is like you never intended it to be like an all-encompassing business, but as it's growing, it's just you've gotten to that point where, okay, well, we got to make some decisions now. And you and I've had this conversation about that. About where are you at right now with the business? I mean, you're doing, quite a bit of you have quite a few sales right now. I mean, you're doing really well. You're shipping, quite a few. How do you scale it, or see yourself scale, or do you want to keep it exclusive, or what are your plans with it?
Well, so it's a good question, and it's a period where you're right. We kind of keep delaying it, and pushing it off. One of the things that's definitely happened more recently is Amy, my wife, she's taken on more. It's the point now where the social media parts she handles. She'll typically tend to handle a lot of the day-to-day stuff, emails and correspondence and things along those lines. I can still do because it's easy for me, between meetings or whatever to respond to an email, that kind of thing. And I'll help on the night. And then I still handle most of the production side. But I think by bringing on a co-packer that can be able to do a lot of the production, we could still manage the distribution, because the distribution piece of it a lot of times is you can do at night, right? Or you can do,
exactly.
You have more free time to be able to put together packages and that kind of thing. So I think we have the ability to be able to continue to scale a bit more, managing it with just us two, before we have to look at, okay, well, do we need to bring on somebody full time? Because really the time consuming piece is the production portion of it. Because
right.
like we talked about, I mean, if I was to have somebody that can make 100 gallons, I mean, that's over 10 times more than what I can make in a single session. So not only do I get all that time back, but it also will allow me to sit there and we can ship out larger orders or whatever it might be, without it really taking up a lot more of our time. So I think our plan is to kind of continue to progress, along that path. But eventually what's going to happen is it's going to get to the point where, we're going to be on the phone, discussing, contracts with distributors, or, whatever customer relations we're going to be having to deal with, or it's going to be in the kitchen testing new flavors or whatever it might be. And it'll just get to that point where we won't have the ability to be able to manage kind of like a full-time thing and then keep this as a side project. And I think we'll know when the right time for that is. Or not exactly, but at least get close, right? Like,
Right.
we might be a little early or a little late, but I think we can at least get close to the point where we'll just look at each other and we're like, either we have to decide to scale this back a little bit or just go for it.
Right.
So why hot sauce? It's interesting to me because I have actually a friend of mine that I go fishing with for the last 30 years that actually tried a hot sauce company. It was Jabuka hot sauce. But why hot sauce? I asked him, he had his answer. I'm going to ask you, why hot sauce?
Yeah, no. So actually the way it started was, and again, this goes back to our history, listened to Jason Stapleton for years. I've also listened to Tom Woods for years, things along those lines. And one of the things that they always talked about a lot is controlling the source of your income, never relying on one income stream, too heavily. And so what ended up happening is back during COVID, right? Because this was 2021. I got a phone call from my boss, and he never called me before, and he brought on his boss, and again, never been on the phone with him before. And so, to make a long story short, they were doing an org restructure and he wanted to keep me on the team. But, as a single income household, that phone call could have gone the other way. And so when I got off the phone, I was talking to my wife and I'm like, I've been listening to these guys for years that have talked about the importance of not relying on a single source of income, especially when that source of income is reliant upon somebody else. And so we need to figure out something to do here. And so, coming from a corporate finance background, I have a very good grasp, at least from a business sense. And a friend of mine happened to make his own hot sauce. And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey, let's get together and start chatting. And he was my original partner, but he had a full-time job and he had a second small kid that was on the way. So he kind of pulled out. But at that point, I had made 10 or 12 different sauce recipes and that kind of thing. And I just really enjoyed doing it. And so when my wife asked me if I wanted to stop, I said no. And she's like, okay, well then, keep going and we'll make it work. And so it was kind of something that started off as a partnership with somebody who did make their own sauce and was much more familiar with it than me. And it turned into a thing where I just happened to really enjoy doing it. And it was a nice creative outlet. And so we kind of decided to take that burden on just completely by ourselves. And now it's gotten to the point where, where we are now, where we're scaling up to the point where we're talking about distributors, and we're talking and having conversations with grocery store chains to potentially be able to get on the shelves there and that kind of thing. So it was just pieces kind of fell into place, and we just tried to roll with them as best we could.
Oh, that makes sense. You know, if you look at it, if you needed sales reps, outside sales reps, there's probably 4 of us here that would help with that. So we all know, like, and trust you. We love the product, and I tell everyone about it.
One of us is fully self-employed as well too. So
yeah. Oh, and if I had to guess, there's probably no less than 3 or 4 income streams that go along with that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I would like to actually unbox something that I got in the mail not too long ago, and this is basically the package that you will get if you're doing a subscription service with Tennessee Hot Sauce. And I get these every 3 months.
3 months, yeah. And Ken gets his every 6
great
months.
Gifts.
Yeah, I get mine every 6.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I get mine at random whenever I'm like, hey, what you got this new? Because I like to order all the specialty sauces.
Yeah.
So what I do, like I was saying, like at the, well, it was this before the live? I can't remember. But I was just saying is I'm kind of a bitch when it comes to spiciness. But I thought his flavors were very unique, and I'm like, oh, let me try it, because everybody's talking good about it and everything. And like like Ken said, we kind of knew him when he was getting started. So I'm like, okay, let me support him, And so I was like, all right, well, let me get one of each flavor whenever he first started. And I'm like, well, the habanero ones are probably gonna be too hot for me, but the jalapeno ones are probably gonna be all right. And but I tried them all anyway, and they have, like I said, I'm a bitch when it comes to hot sauce. So if you aren't, then you're gonna be fine. But whenever I tasted every one of them because I wanted to try it. They all have really good flavor for whatever the flavor combination is. And my personal favorite is the poblano jalapeno, because it has some good flavor in it and stuff. The honey jalapeno was all right. The pineapple habanero was really, really good. But basically, like, all the ones besides the poblano jalapeno, I tasted them and then gave them to my dad, and then he loves them. Like he just has a new hot sauce all the time. And so I actually, I'll go get mine here in a second after King gets his, but or after Bruce opens his. But yeah, I just messaged Danny and I'm like, hey, what do you got this new? And he'll be like, oh, I got this, and this. I'm like, okay, well, let me get one of each, and I just try them.
And as you guys know too, because you guys are in this space where you're always trying out new things. In one of the things and part of the struggle of doing it as a subscription is you have to kind of continually innovate, right? Because when there are so many different hot sauce companies that exist out there, you could have a new hot sauce every day, and you would have a new sauce from a different manufacturer, and you'd go years without having a repeat. And so whenever Chris is reaching out and talking about, oh, do you have some new flavors or whatever going on and that kind of thing, you almost have to, right? Because you can't just keep giving the same thing over and over again, because people will have staples, then they'll have favorites that they go back to, and that kind of thing. But if you're not continually being able to create and add that value, then people are just going to kind of go elsewhere. So
right. Well, we're gonna look at what we got here. So I took this out, and of course it comes with a little invoice here. So that's the first thing. You
got your address on there and everything.
Exactly. Got everything that you got.
Make sure you post that up.
Don't worry about my address. Forget about that. But anyway, it always comes with a nice little surprise. And this year or this time, it's a nice little bottle opener. I like that.
Yeah. That bottle opener is cool. It's magnetic too. It goes on your fridge.
It's actually for breaking fingers.
Right. and then usually he comes in with a little recipe card with a little scanning thing, man. It got the pairings and stuff on the back, and then a real stylish box that has all your hot sauces in it. And all these are pretty much my favorites. I mean, I'm going to open this up right now and do a couple things here, because my favorite is actually the honey habanero.
Yes.
Excuse me. The
honey homosexual.
Let me grab it. Let me grab it out of here.
That's the kind you
got the
like
avocado ghost.
Honey homosexual. That's the one you like.
Yeah, the honey habanero. That's the one.
That's right, fantastic.
There. I like that one. And then I also like the, and I don't have it this time because I don't think I I don't think I ordered. I changed up my stuff. I got the
I love when you're deaf, Bruce.
The
It's
pineapple
hilarious.
habanero, man. The pineapple habanero is my favorite out of all of them.
Yeah.
I use that stuff on enchiladas, tamales, all my burritos, my eggs, my hash browns. And I got a new avocado ghost. That one's going to be going on on one of my salads. I like them on salads too.
I'm going to try that one too.
And it's funny too, Bruce, that you bring up the pineapple, because the pineapple actually started off as a seasonal sauce. So you know how the avocado one is the seasonal this round,
right?
But at the end of the year, as you guys are aware, you know, we send out a survey to all of our customers that basically was like, hey, you know, how was the service this year? You know, was the quality there? Was the customer service where you wanted to be? What did we do well? What could we do better? And we always try to get feedback on the seasonal sauces. And if we get one of them that really kind of has an overwhelmingly positive response, we'll generally roll that one kind of into the lineup, and then we'll kind of, you know, take something else out. And it kind of helps keep the lineup fresh. And kind of keep things changing, but it's also kind of a way of being able to allow a lot of input from, you know, your community, right? Because people kind of give them some ownership over the way that you're kind of able to take the business. And so I think it's another way of kind of helping to create value for people, and really gives them a sense that they're also helping to create value for us. Because anytime I'm at events or anything along those lines, that, you know, I can't ever compliment the community that we've built enough, because, you know, there are sauces that we wouldn't even have if it wasn't for you know, the people that we send them to, and the feedback that we get. You know, sometimes the feedback is better than others, but the feedback is still feedback, and we still use all of it to make it better. So
right, the way that I judge a hot sauce, number one, is because I love hot sauces. I mean, as long as it's nice and spicy, and it gets to you know, it accents the food instead of overpowering the food. But one of the things that sets your hot sauces off than a lot of really hot sauces, I mean, because there's some hot ones out there, is the sting. And when you get to me, the sting is not pleasurable at all. That one that gets on the two sides of the tongue and maybe the back of the throat, and it's just like,
Brian Amesum calls them the tongue wings.
Yeah, exactly. And those are the types of hot sauce I just go like, nah, this is not the one, because number one, I think it overpowers and it takes away from the flavors. But you've been able to come up with some you know, some blends and stuff that none of them are really overpowering to anything, and they really accent the food. And I'm really happy with these hot sauces. By far, probably the best hot sauces I've had.
Well, I appreciate it, and I think part of it too is we try to make sure that we understand a couple of things. One, we can't be all things to all people, right? Like we will get some people that are going to be like, oh, you know, I really like the flavor in this, or I like the flavor in that, but I really wish it was hotter, you know, or whatever it might be. But again, I mean, there are thousands of hot sauce companies out there, and so we want to try to make sure that we know our wheelhouse, right? We're familiar with it. We're comfortable there. We kind of know where we're able to operate, because, you know, you bring up some of the hotter stuff, and there are some companies out there that make, you know, some hot sauces that are incredibly hot, but they're good. You know, like Hellfire is a famous one. You know, Karma makes some sauces that are up there. Obviously, Pucker Butt, you know, with Creating the Reaper and Pepper X and those guys, like, they make that super hot stuff, but I struggle to eat that. And so when I'm coming up with a recipe or testing or something along those lines, if it's something that I can't even eat, it makes it very difficult to be able to test it and go, no, this is a good sauce, because otherwise I'm like, all I know is that my mouth is on fire, so maybe some people are going to like it. I don't really know where to go with it. And so we try to make sure that we try to balance those as much as possible, but then also try to get creative with it, right? Like, I know our avocado sauce is not the first avocado sauce that exists out there, but there's not a lot of them, and we wanted to try to get creative with it to really kind of add a twist on it. and get creative, especially with the seasonal sauces, because a lot of times they're only around once, and so if it's only around once, you might as well have some fun with it and get creative.
I like how you do the seasonal ones. That's pretty interesting. So I got my two here, and I've never tried them. I don't know, Bruce. Have you tried any of the ones that you got? Have you tried all the ones you got? I mean,
I have
probably not the avocado.
The avocado. The avocado is the new one, and the one that I didn't get this time was the pineapple habanero, because I've got two of them still.
Okay. Well, I got the avocado ghost.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's really good.
And the peach datil. What is datil? I don't even.
So a datil pepper is it's essentially grown almost exclusively in like the St. Augustine area of Florida, and so it's a fruitier pepper, but that's almost exclusively where it's grown. So a lot of people that are in that area are familiar with it, but also too it's also kind of one of those where people that have traveled to the Florida area and they've had datil pepper sauces, it tends to kind of stick out in their brain. And so it turned out that a buddy of mine actually messaged me, and he was like, hey, are you ever planning on making anything with datil peppers? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never heard of it before. I'll look into it.
Mixing it with peach, I think is good. I mean, they fucking smell great. That's one thing about it too. And so I'm actually going to taste test some right here.
Yeah, do it
if you want. So we go ahead and try.
The whiskey habanero is still my favorite though, but that's
the whiskey
me.
Was good. Yeah, the whiskey one was
fantastic.
good. The pineapple habanero, like Bruce said, it's pretty good. But
The garlic jalapeno is really good too.
I gotta get a little bit more.
Yeah,
That's not.
I actually bought a bunch of
Come on there.
Be brave. Come on, we're all men here.
Yeah.
Come on, that's what
I bought a bunch of the whiskey habanero when I was drunk off of whiskey, so that worked out pretty good.
Yeah, there you go. And I will say too, the whiskey one, we actually, as you guys have probably seen, we now also, well, it's out of stock right now, but we also barrel aged that sauce in whiskey barrels. And
that's awesome.
And part of it was, again, being in this space, we have now some friends of ours who are essentially our partners with that sauce, the Whiskey Hound. They reached out to us and they were like, hey, have you guys made a barrel aged sauce? And I'm like, well, we haven't barrel aged it, but we had a whiskey sauce that was really popular. And without people like Jason buying multiple bottles of it and really giving us really good feedback, we wouldn't have known, hey, you know what, this would be a great sauce to age in some barrels. So again, by having that feedback there and that support, it really helped us get to that point where we were like, hey, you know what if we barrel aged a whiskey sauce and let's give it a try. And it turned out to be incredibly popular. We age it in 15-gallon barrels, and we're actually working up to aging it in a 55-gallon barrel, because doing it in 15 is just not enough.
What's the process for aging something that's, I mean, I imagine this is at some level perishable. So how do you age something like that without giving away trade secrets? But I'm curious about that.
No, it's a great
whiskey
question.
in a barrel for 20 years, it's fine. You put that in a barrel for that long, it's
so it is shelf stable. So we reduce. So essentially, we cook it. We make the sauce like we would normally, right? We test the pH levels, and so as long as it's below 4.2, it's classified as an acidified food and shelf stable. Okay. I generally, whenever I'm making any sauces, I shoot for about 3.8. Just because it kind of gives you that extra wiggle room in the case, if something happens and your ratios are slightly off, you've still got some space. But we essentially cook the sauce like normal, right? So you heat it up to make sure that you're killing off any bacteria, that your pH level is low enough to where that way you're not going to get any kind of additional growth. And then we put it into the barrel, and then we'll age it about 6 months. And then we'll kind of test it a little bit along the way just to see how the flavor and stuff is. And then when we take it out of the barrel, we reheat it back up to temp again. So we'll bring it back up to a boil. And then that's when we'll bottle fill it. So essentially you're kind of cooking it twice. And that way you're still able to hit those temps and make sure that there's no additional bacterial growth, or anything like that you might get. So you kind of treat it the same. You just end up doing it twice. Just the other one is after the months and months of aging it in the barrel.
Sure. Well, that makes sense. I was just curious about how that worked.
All right, so I'm gonna try this peach datil.
Do it.
Pretty good here. I'm gonna turn it down so I can get the flavor on my tongue.
So while Harkos is eating that, Danny, one thing that I want to mention with the whiskey habanero one that you did before, one thing that I really like is you know that whenever I always order the gluten-free stuff because of celiac. And even though that whiskey is traditionally gluten-free because it's distilled, a lot of whiskey companies will add additives in there that make it not gluten-free. What I love about the whiskey habanero that you have is that I don't get sick off of eating it, so I know it's completely gluten-free.
You know, I actually didn't even think about that there are some additives that are in there that might specifically add gluten to it. Do you know what those additives are?
I do not know what they are, but I know it's mainly the cheap whiskey. So like Rich and Reserve, I get super sick off of. So if it's really cheap, like bottom shelf whiskey, I get sick as hell. But if it's top shelf, then I have no problem with it at all. Like Teeling Irish whiskey, I drink a lot because that stuff doesn't bother me. But it's usually the cheap stuff. They put additives in there. I don't know what it is, but it gets me super sick.
It's probably it's probably like some of like the fillers and all that bullshit.
Sure.
It is.
So it must be pretty good.
So so I had a decent amount of heat. Like I could taste the peach, and I kind of got what you're saying with like I understand why you mixed it with the dado with the peach because you said it wasn't fruity or pepper.
Sure.
And so like it hit me for a few, and then like it's pretty much gone now. Like my tongue has a little bit of spice on it. But I mean that was just only the dado. I don't know what that. I mean,
and
that's probably in between. Huh?
Yeah, a dado pepper is fairly light. So on the Scoville scale, it's obviously higher than a jalapeno. Jalapenos, several thousand.
Yeah, and you have the little scale on the size of the bottle as well too. And this one is the yellow. So.
We do have the scale, but we get some shit for having the scale just because like people will see the scale and I have to remind them I go it's kind of a normie scale. Our friend Brian Ames, who is actually I'll call him a friend now, but we met because he did an episode on his show of our sauces, and we've communicated and talked, and he made our mustard sauce the sauce of the month. Yeah, there's the video there.
What's that guy's name? That British comedian.
The dude chugging
Gervais. Yeah, he looks like Gervais.
Yeah, the dude chugging was awesome.
Yeah, and so now he's one of those people where he will intentionally go out of his way to eat things that are as painful, right? Yeah. And so on the scale, we have the mustard one that's kind of all the way up to the top. But for him, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 3.5 to a 4. Yeah.
So it's subject to see. So like the ingredients in this peach dado one is peaches, bell peppers, shallots, dado peppers, garlic, apple cider vinegar, rosemary, ginger, cardamom. Lemon juice, water, salt, and black pepper. And I can taste that black pepper. It's that's the part that's kind of sticking on my tongue a little bit.
Yeah, and there are parts of it too where like you think an ingredient's going to be pretty good, and so like we wanted to use a lot of fresh cracked black pepper, but then like you're sitting there with the grinder, kind of grinding it,
all day.
and you're like, what am I doing with my life? Like I've been sitting here grinding this pepper for 10 or 15 minutes. Like
that makes sense. So I'm gonna try the avocado ghost now that Jason said was amazing. So I'm probably gonna die.
It is so good. It is so good. I like it, but you will probably die from that. But
don't tell him that. Tell him it's not that. Tell him it's not that spicy, and it won't be a problem.
It says ghost. I know better. Okay, I've tasted ghost before.
You know what? I also did the one chip challenge, and I lasted 2 hours before we drank anything. One thing I love about your sauces, Danny, is that I can go out and buy the hot stuff like the Dave's ghost pepper sauce, and just completely live in the ring of fire.
Right.
But your sauces, they have flavor and they're good, and they just have the right amount of heat to where it's like you're not going to be sitting in the toilet praying to God, why did you do this? It's got just, they're sweet, and then they're spicy, and then there's a little bit of sour, and it's just so damn good.
Especially some of that stuff
like
habanero.
the whiskey habanero stuff, I would drink that
That was
stuff.
good.
It was
that
so
was
damn good.
That,
So, like,
that rhubarb,
like, 'cause I
what was that? That
remember
rhubarb
I was
ghost was
watching the
good
movie.
too.
Yeah, I was watching the movie, and I'm like, I was getting a little drunk off the Teeling Irish whiskey, and your email came out, and I'm like, yep, I'm buying a bunch of that.
Yeah, well, this
It's
avocado
got
ghost,
whiskey in it.
it's got avocado, cucumber, tomatillo, ghost peppers, vinegar, water, garlic, salt, key lime juice, not regular lime juice, and basil, toasted sesame oil, and then some ascorbic acid for
That sounds
protecting
perfect for a
flavors.
salad, man.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
a salad,
Yep.
fuck.
The
Ghost
ascorbic
pepper on a
acid
fucking
is
salad.
essentially like
Right.
I believe it's vitamin B. So the ascorbic acid is there to essentially help retain the creamy avocado flavor.
Oh god, it's very creamy.
So you kind of know, like, if you have an
Yeah.
avocado
Oh, it's hot,
that's
but it's
in the
creamy.
fridge, for a
Mhm.
while, it kind of loses a little bit of that creamy avocado edge, and so by adding the ascorbic acid in there, it kind of helps retain that.
Yeah, the creaminess of the avocado and the cucumber is there. There's the ghost. The ghost is there from the
that's
beginning,
awesome.
but it's there. It's there a little bit more now.
Yeah, and part of the
That's
reason
all.
why too,
Eat some more plain chips.
why we tend to operate kind of in that space is because we have subscribers, and again, I try and tell people that we operate with the subscription portion of it in mind, to where, to Jason's point, right, we could make a Dave's Insanity super hot, whatever it might be, but a lot of our subscribers also don't eat at that level, and so because they don't really have a choice of getting the subscription sauce, the surprise sauce, we try not to make it a sauce that most of those people wouldn't be able to eat. And so even somebody where their heat tolerance is a little bit lower, maybe the ratio of whatever they eat it with is down a bit more, whatever. But we try to keep that in mind when we're coming up with some new flavors, to where somebody's going to get it and they're going to try a bit of it and they're going to be like, I can't eat this because it's too hot. And then we don't want them to feel like they wasted their money because now they got a seasonal sauce that they're not even able to have.
Oh god, yeah, and my sciences are going pretty good now. I don't know if you guys I have my eyes up, but so with this card that comes with it that Bruce was talking about, it's got on the back, it's got some suggestions. And I think it's pretty good. So it says the poblano jalapeno, which is my favorite. It's good for burritos, egg breakfast dishes, meat marinade, and salsa verde / guac. Now I've used it in burritos, and I've used it. I've dipped it with I put it on top of some steak when I was cooking it. So it wasn't necessarily a marinade. It was like, you put it on the sauce as you're cooking, right? The one that's interesting to me, well, there's two different ones. So the pineapple habanero says pizza Alfredo.
Yep.
It's very interesting to have pineapple habanero on either one of those, in my opinion. But barbecue ribs, okay, I can see it. Grilled seafood, that's interesting to me because I don't know. I usually don't eat my seafood with hot sauce, but I'm also I'm just me. But then the smoked ghost barbecue, which is one that I want you to send me because I want to try that, as well as the SOS sauce, and I think there was, and the Oliver's your son's sauce. I want to try this. Gonna be the next box I get.
Sure.
But this one says for barbecue food, and then baked beans. Now that's something my dad is definitely gonna fucking do. He's gonna put this ghost hot sauce in his baked beans, and then he's gonna try feeding it to me. I'm gonna be like, no, I'm good. But salads. It says salads for you, Bruce. Salads for the fucking.
There you go.
Smoked barbecue ghost.
I do ham and
burgers,
bean soup
which
too.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I do ham and bean soup too. When we ever have a ham, I'll save the hock out, and then I'll do the 15 bean soup. And they try to spice it up with a little bit of cumin and stuff like that. But I'm kind of excited about trying one of these hot sauces to put that little kick in it. And
I mean the smoked
absolutely.
barbecue, that might be all right.
And part of the fun part about it is that, like, people are so creative, and so we'll say, oh, you know what, let's try it with this or let's try it with that. And obviously some stuff hits better and some stuff doesn't, but we'll get emails from people, and these are the best emails that we get. And it's people of, I tried it on this, or I tried it on that. And I'm like, you know what? We never even really thought about potentially pairing it up. And part of it, and you know, when you talked about the pineapple one and having it with some, so we did it with some shrimp Alfredo, but that kind of came in as a recommendation where it was like, hey, mix it with some of your pastas and that kind of thing. And I think part of it was the chariness of the pineapple. You kind of get a little bit of that smokiness from there, and it just kind of goes along, and it pairs well with the creaminess of the Alfredo sauce. But some of that stuff we wouldn't know if it wasn't for people. And so when they email us with these ideas or you know, being excited about they tried it with this or tried it with that, we always try to make sure that we're engaging in that regard, because we want to make sure that people are aware of that you know, they're going out of their way to send us feedback, and they're sending us, hey, this was an awesome pairing, you should totally highlight this, or whatever it might be, and acknowledge that and say, hey, we really appreciate you sending that over. That's not something we ever would have thought of. You know, we're going to give it a shot, you know, and that kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of you know, feeling, you know, you get some good feelings whenever you get that kind of feedback back.
Yeah. And then on the front, the avocado ghost says it goes pairing with the Southwestern cheeseburger, which looks pretty interesting. It looks like a cheeseburger with like, I put that pepper jack on it? Yeah. It also says omelets, avocado toast, summer salads, and rice bowls. One thing I think it might be good on too is a torta.
Yeah.
Tortas, if anybody who doesn't know, it's like a Mexican sandwich, and it has avocado on top. And so since this is creamy, like, you know, because of the avocado with some tomatillo in it and some cucumber in there, I think it would go good with that, you know, because you're already getting the avocado too. I think it would definitely spice it up, because that meat, it would definitely be good. But I haven't drank any water. I've just been eating some plain chips, and it knocked it down. It's like I said, I'm a bitch when it comes to the heat.
Little milk will do that. Milk or ice cream, that takes care of the bite.
I know. I just eat some plain tortilla chips, and I'm good, because I'm a little sniffly, but not that bad off of some Ghost, and I'm a bitch, like I said. So, but yeah, these are really, really good. Did you want me to talk to them about the unmarked bottles that you sent me, or no?
I mean, you can. Yeah,
Okay.
Go for it.
All right.
I think these guys have probably tried some of those as well.
Okay. All right. Well, he also sent me some private label, meaning that there's no label on it, bottles, which were a couple of bottles left over from whenever he did a enchilada sauce. That was called throw away the note card or set fire the note card or whatever.
So we had made that sauce
Tom Woods sauce
for Tom Woods audience. So I got the chance to go on Tom Woods last year, and it was a lot of fun. And I actually reached back out to his people again, because he's a big fan, a friend of Connor Boyack, who you guys may or may not be familiar with, the guy who wrote the Tuttle Twins series. But he is the one who is putting on all the children's entrepreneurial markets. And so he came on Tom Woods' show, plugging it, how they're doing it in a bunch of different states and that kind of thing. And so I actually reached out to Tom's people and said, hey, you know, my son, I've been on your show. Obviously, we know each other, or that kind of thing. Or maybe you don't remember me, but that's fine. But my son participated in one of the events that Connor's organization put together. And so if you want me back on and talk about the positives and all of that kind of stuff, you know, let me know. So we have kind of a relationship there as far as Tom and his audience and that kind of thing. And so we had made a sauce, and how we did that is I actually talked to Tom and I said, well, hey, you know, what are your favorite kinds of hot sauces? And so he, you know, gave me a list of like 3 to 4 different ones. And so what I did was I kind of took those and then made a sauce that was kind of customized exclusively for him, in the same vein of the types of sauces that he likes. And so when his audience made purchases or whatever, I was able to include a bottle of essentially Tom's hot sauce, you know, to them. And so we sent, I think, 3 or 4 different versions of it to Tom, so he and his family could test them out and try them out. And then whichever one he liked the most, that's the one that we made, you know, for his audience.
Yeah. And then I mean, it's essentially an enchilada sauce. And like I said, I use it on top of enchiladas. It's great. And I hadn't had any for a while. And I knew you had only made it for a limited thing. Yeah. And so whenever I was talking to you the other day, I'm like, hey, you know, I saw you got the SOS and some other things like that. And I'm like, do you have any more of the enchilada, or are you going to start making it again? Because I know you were on the fence like a year or so ago whenever I was talking to you about it. and you're like, yeah, I got a couple extra bottles here. Let me throw it to you. And so,
Yep.
so I got those. So yeah, if they make a comeback, or if you tweak it to make it a little bit more enchilada-y,
Yep.
I think that would go good too, because it's not very spicy. Like you just use cayenne in it, right?
No, so that one we used some Mexican. There was some Mexican chilies that were in there. So ancho chilies, guadillo chilies, and so it was more of a Mexican chili sauce.
Yeah, and it's good. I mean, it's good. I mean, you can have it as a regular hot sauce, put it on some tacos or something like that, or you know, if you want to put it on top of bacon to make bacon taste better, you can do that as well too. Because bacon.
I mean, can you really make bacon taste better though?
Fuck, Jason's not even here. Damn it, I was doing that at him.
Yeah.
Jason has jumped off. He's a huge bacon person.
I think everything starts with a taco or a burrito when you come into hot sauce. And that's kind of where I started everything at. I'm a big guy on tamales because I buy tamales all the time from the guy over at Safeway, and you know, everybody says, you know, don't buy tamales from that.
Absolutely.
But I love all this homespun stuff. So I grew up on tamales and enchiladas, man. So those are the first things that I try my hot sauce on. And
I love it. And one of the things too that Ken brought up earlier when he was talking about his sauces and what he generally does with it. We actually have a handful of our subscribers that don't actually even eat hot sauce. What they do is similar things to what Ken does, where, you know, they take them to work because they know that their staff likes them, or we even have a couple of them that they actually just use them for gifts. So they work in sales. And so they'll actually get them and they'll give them away to clients and things like that, because there's a story that goes there with them, right? Like, they're from my area, or I knew them through, you know, whatever it might be. And so there's a nice connection with the product. So not only are they supporting us, but they're leveraging it to kind of, you know, build the relationships that they've got elsewhere to use them. So yeah. And like the SOS, right? Ken was actually the artist that helped us design the label. You know, we essentially got a photo from Billy Lane of the motorcycle, and Ken was able to take the photo and incorporate everything in there and turn that into one of our labels. So we always look at kind of trying to leverage those types of relationships. And
so Danny,
which by the way, Ken, I've really dropped the ball on, but I've got an email that I need to send over to you of some modifications that we have to make to the label.
Oh, no problem. Well, here, so I wanted to tell you this.
Harley Davidson has contacted us, and
So, well,
it
here,
actually wasn't that bad.
This is cease and desist.
Yeah,
you'll like this.
More stuff that we dropped the ball on. Like, we don't have a spot for batch numbers, so whenever you're making hot sauce, you're supposed to have a batch number on there. We don't have it on there. Like, and then like papaya is spelled wrong on the ingredient list, on there. So like it says apaya, so we forgot a P.
That's Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I watch out there as Wisconsin guys. I'm telling you.
Well, do here so we can fix this. So anyway, I got to tell you a little story about what's happening here this week in Minnesota. Is the Back to the 50s car show, and Bruce and Chris Harkos and Jason are all coming up. And I found out this last week that one of the people that's going to be at this as a guest there and a VIP guy is Billy Lane. He's judging some bike competition for some local kids here. So he's going to be in town for this. He's going to be at the Back to the 50s. So I'm going to bring this bottle.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell him I know you. And then, I'm the guy that spelled papaya wrong or something. Who knows?
No, that was totally me. That was totally me.
Well, yeah, you'd never have me proofread. You've learned that now. Never have me proofread.
When we got the labels, a customer, a friend of mine, is actually the one that pointed it out, and I emailed him back, and I go, I just want to let you know that I had 5 people, including myself, look at that label before it got sent off to be printed.
Yeah, that's great. Papaya. Oh, but anyway, so I'm gonna be able to talk to Billy, and I'm looking forward to that. Hope we get some pictures together and have him sign the bottle.
Yeah.
So here's the other problem. So now I got to order another one of these bottles because I don't want to open this one. I want to have this one preserved. So I said, I have 2 bottles that say batch number 1 that you wrote on the side with a Sharpie back in the day. And I said, hey, remember when you're big time, don't forget us little people.
Yeah.
I've got batch. Imagine having a Tabasco bottle number 1, batch number 1.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
these that I have are batch number 1 too.
You got to save
I'm,
that
tell-
shit.
I'm telling you what, if you get a subscription, I really say, get that every 3 month subscription or whatever you want to, because like I said, I get enough of hot sauce here, and this is the only hot sauce that I get. The only other one I like is sriracha.
Mine too.
I like sriracha sauce, so
Yeah,
I actually
sriracha's
buy
good.
that from the store. But I give these things out for gifts, and every year we have this Christmas party at the barn. And what I'll do is they take donations for stuff, and we raffle it off for the food hut here in Gilroy. And for the last 2 years, your hot sauce package, along with some other stuff that I actually put in there, because I buy from local businesses and I stuff the basket with all local business stuff, all small business stuff, and by far yours get the most attraction out of all the gifts there. So that's cool. I hope you're getting some business from that, because man, I just love doing that. It's just really cool. And by the time I'm through with 2 of the subscriptions, I've got 2 left, and I just hand them out, and they're great.
Yeah.
I think they're great. And
I love
send
it.
business your way.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the joys too of being able to own the business. And Ken has probably done some stuff with this on as far as the artwork goes, where I sit on the advisory board for my youngest son's school, and so they do a silent auction for the scholarship fund every year, and we make a basket for that. And through the Sons of Speed, we met Journey Biker Church, who have become really good friends of ours. And
oh, cool.
They do a big fundraiser every year, because at Christmas time, they do Shop with a Biker, where families that don't have very much money, they get sponsored by the church, and the church pays for their kids' Christmas, and they get the parents, and they take them out to lunch, and they do a lot of this kind of stuff. And so us being the owners of it, it gives us the leeway to be able to participate in fundraisers and stuff where we need to. So, I mean, we probably donate anywhere from, probably 4 to 6 baskets, for silent auctions and fundraisers and stuff like that a year. And they'll generally bring anywhere from, 120, 130 up to like 200, 250 bucks. So it's nice to be able to, to be able to give back. And it's awesome hearing stories that, where you're able to kind of take some of the stuff that we provide and do something like that in your community too.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome for sure. So, yeah. Do you have a little more time? Because we'd like to do some bonus content after the break.
Yeah.
And then,
let's
we're
do
going to
it.
be doing that, and we can keep going on here.
Whatever. I've only been up since 5 o'clock this morning. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
We've all had our little stories on Father's Day this weekend.
Where can we find out more about Tennessee hot sauce?
Yeah. So the sites is TN. You got it down there at the bottom, right? TNHotSauceCO.com. And then you can look up TN Hot Sauce CO on pretty much all the social media platforms. My wife Amy, she manages the Instagram and Facebook, which are the most active, just because she knows how to do a lot. Like I had to hand the keys over to her for that stuff, because literally, like I would put something, I'm like, I think this is going to be good, and she's like, this is garbage. And eventually it just got to the point where I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe you should just do it. And of course she's right, because everything that she puts out is way better than any of the stuff that I would do. But she's pretty active in keeping us pretty active on both of those platforms as well.
Which means you didn't take the copy clinic.
No, no, I did. But it's also one of those things too, where like, she incorporates AI when she's making photos, and like for me, I tend to be more along the lines of, but what are our numbers looking like? What's our inventory looking like? What production schedule do we have coming up? And so if she was like, hey, have you put an Instagram post out today or something like that? And I go, no, I don't care. I'm thinking about this, or I'm thinking about that. And so, that was the other part of it too, where that part just didn't click with me as to be as important, as I'm sure it probably should be. But I just don't have the soul to be able to get on there and do that kind of stuff.
Right. Oh, understandable. We all can't do it all. So
yeah, exactly. At least not well, right? Like I could do it all, and some of it would just suck.
Right.
I couldn't do it all without these guys, these knuckleheads that came over here. And just,
Exactly.
will help me with this podcast because I suck solo. But
Yeah.
So when does the show start tonight?
Which show?
Bruce. When do we start the show tonight?
Yeah. These guys, they read their email all the time. So yeah, it's usually a useless effort on my part. But hey, we want to thank you for being here, Danny, man. It was been a pleasure talking to you. TennesseeHotSauce.com, actually TNHotSauceCo.com. That's where you go to go get your subscription. Go try out some product there. Like I said, I'll have all the show notes down at the bottom of the page when we get off the show, and then when we do the audio, all that stuff will be on there. But we're going to go on the other side, and I want to thank my co-hosts Ken, Harkos, and Jason for being here. Ken is, I don't know how Ken's going to be on the bonus content, but he's had a long day. A long day, and but me and Harkos and Jason will definitely be on this other side with Danny, and we want to thank you guys for being here. Do all those things that you're supposed to do with share and like and all that other good stuff, and we thank you guys for all listening because we had quite an audience tonight. Not a lot of questions, but we had a good showing in the audience, and we want to thank
15 people watching right now. Absolutely,
exactly, and we will just see you guys on the other side. So we'll talk to you later, and have a good weekend or a good week, and be good to yourselves. We'll see you later.
Yep. So over in the private chat.